Welcome to Ruby on Rails webinar series from jpassion.com and javapassion.com. Today's topic is Active Record Basics, topic number 10. So let's go on to the presentation. So these are the set of topics that we are going to cover. So let's talk about what Active Record is. You probably have some exposure to Active Record because we have used the Active Record model in previous exercises and presentation actually. So let's go over the basics of Active Record just one more time. Active Record is Ruby library that provides OR mapping, meaning it provides a mapping between your Ruby objects and database tables. So when you access any data, whether you are saving it, creating it, or updating, basically Active Record is involved. So it provides, as I said, OR mapping for your Rails application, and it could contain some domain logic as well. So features of Active Record. So again, it provides automatic mapping between your the Ruby classes and tables, between the Ruby classes and tables, actually Ruby objects and your tables, and attributes and columns. And it provides a callbacks as methods on the lifecycle. So we're going to take a look at these things later on. And transaction support is, of course, supported. Whenever you are performing some operation against your database, transaction is critical. And reflections and columns, associations, and aggregations. So it supports association. And in fact, that's the next topic that we are going to cover next week, Active Record Associations. So associations between objects, you can specify through very simple meta-programming macros, and aggregations as well, and it does support inheritance as well. So automatic mapping between classes and tables. So when you have Active Record Class, for example, product class, which is a child class of Active Record Base, basically it creates a products table. These are the mapping. The name of your model class is reflected as a name of the table. So the only difference is that table name has the S at the end. You can have a domain logic in your model class. So here you can define my business method, and you can have any business logic that involves your models. Attributes, you don't see attributes specified in your model class. The reason is because attributes are in fact inferred from the table definition. So Rails know what attributes you have. So that's the reason you don't have to specify those attribute definitions in Active Record Class, because Rails already knows it. You can have a getter and setter method of attributes, however. All right, so let's move on to Active Record, object creation, update, and delete. So there are three different ways that you can create an object, Active Record object. You can say user, so that is the name of the model, and then you are calling new class method, and then you specify the hash, providing the initialization values for those fields of user models. So name is David. In this case, occupation is artist. You can use the block initialization like this. So here user.new, and then you have this block in which you are specifying, you are assigning the values to the properties or fields or attributes of that user object. Or you can just create a user object from user.new, and then you can set the values. Three different ways. I would say this is probably the most common way of doing things. And once you create Active Record Object, that's just creating an object in memory. So in order to reflect that object onto the table, then you have to call save. All right. By the way, so here, if you want to actually use create method, and create method, you can specify these as the hash attributes, and then create is basically a combination of new and save. Okay. All right, so let's do exercise 1. So we are going to create a brand new project called the ActiveRecord_app, which I have done already. And so I go to that directory, and then we are going to generate a model. So here we are going to create the active record model. So I'm going to copy these codes. So basically we are generating a model whose name happened to be user, and this user has name, hobby, and age fields. I'm going to type in because, by the way, the default type is a string. So here, the name string type and the hobby string type is not really required. So I'm going to actually try Rails and generate. You can say just G, model, and user, and I say name and hobby and age, integer. Okay, so I'm creating a model. So you can see a model has been created here along with migration file, right? Okay. All right. Now we are going to create a table through migration. So we are going to execute up method of this migration file. So we're going to use migration rake command. So we go here. I can go here as well. So table should be created. The name of the table is users. Okay, here. All right. Now we are going to here create active record object through Rails console. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, Rails console. And as I said, there are 3 different ways that you can create user objects. So we are going to create a 3 user object using those 3 different schemes. Okay, so here we are going to create using this scheme. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy here. Okay, so object is created. Now I want to save it to the table. So here we're going to say user save, and then transaction is committed. So we should have 1 record in the table. The next is we're going to use a block. So here I'm going to again create a new user object, and now we are going to say user.name and Daniel and u.hobby is Dennis. I'm going to just copy this one, setting the age property to 34, and then we say end. So we now created a new user object. Again, we are going to save user.save. Okay. All right, so we should have a 2 user records. If I say user.all, then we are going to see 2 users, David and Daniel. Okay. All right. Now, whenever you are saving it, you can see that is in fact the SQL, the statement. This is the default. If you do not want to see those SQL logging, then you can just set the logger to nil. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, and then I'm going to create a 3rd user. So user.new, and then we are going to set the name field to Hannah, and hobby field to Vale, and age is 5, and then user.save. Okay, then it returns true, meaning the commit has been successful. Right? All right, so that's what you have done so far. Now we are going to see whether those things are all created correctly. So we are going to take a look at let me just move this one a bit. Okay, puts user.all, and then we are going to display it in YAML format. So you can see we have 3 users on the table. Okay, so David, Daniel, and Hannah. And you can certainly take a look at the table from SQLite database browser, and you should see 3 entries, 3 records in the users table as well. All right, in terms of migration, we're going to actually talk about the migration later on detail, but we might as well just try this migration. So we are going to generate new migration called add more data. Okay, because this add more data does not really reflect anything that can be used to, by the Rails to create the Rails statement, it's going to just create the def up and def down the method. Okay, so we're going to just change that the up method and down method with this new code. So let's try to generate new migration file. So we are going to modify this migration file. So let's go to here, and if we go to DB and migrate, this is the new migration file that has been just created. Okay. So in this migration, we are going to create some more users. We are going to create 1, 2, 3, and 4 new users. So I'm going to just copy this code here. So when this migration gets executed, we are basically executing methods, the up method. So these are the code that would get executed. And then for down, we are going to delete all entries, all records from the table. Okay, let me just format it. Okay, all right, so we have updated, we have modified the migration file. So let me save that file. So these are the file, and then we are going to migrate. So basically, we are going to execute the migration file. Okay, so we go here, rake db migrate. What that means is that it's going to call the up method of the migration file that has not been executed, so which is going to create 4 new users. Okay, all right. So let's run db migrate. And then we're going to take a look at all the users. So we should have 7 users. All right, so migration has been performed. Now let's try to see how many users we have. Okay. So as you can see, we have 7 users. Okay, because 3 users we have already created through Rails console, and then we created 4 more users using migration file. Okay. All right. You can roll back the migration you just have done. So we can just try that. Now, when you call rollback, it's going to call the down method. Now, if you remember down method, we are basically delete all entries in the table. So we should not have anything in the table. Okay. So we are going to just roll back. So this code is not really 100% correct, because usually what you want to do is you want to actually reflect the changes you made in up, meaning you want to just delete these just 4 records, but instead just for the sake of this demo, we are just deleting them all, which means it will delete the 3 records that we have created through the Rails console as well. Okay. All right, so everything now at this point should be deleted. So if I try to see any record, we should not see any. So there is null. There is none. Okay. And now if you take a look at the migration status, oh, here we have to run here. It will show you the migration status, meaning we have a 2 migration file, right? This one is executed, and this one has not been executed because we just rolled back. Okay, so you can actually perform migration specifying a particular version. So we can say rake db migrate, and you can specify the version number. So here the version number is this. Okay, now we should have now 4 records because up method of the migration file, this migration file, add more data migration file has been executed. Okay, so now if I see the status of it, then you can see both migration files status is up, meaning they have been executed. Okay, up here. So now if I take a look at the records in the table, then I should see 4 of them. Okay, so that's what we see: Tom, Mary, and Bill, and Chosu. All right, so that's what we have done. So let's move on to the next topic. Next topic is find operation. So find is a class method. In fact, if you see Rails in the user.methods, then you will see find as one of the methods. So you can find, then you provide the find criteria, and then it will return a set of records. So you can find by ID, and you can also find first record, you can find last record, and you can find all. And you can specify various find criteria, so you can specify conditions. So here, administrator value is 1, or username is this, something that you set as a variable. You can have ordered return, group is group by, and limit is number of records that should be returned. Offset is the starting point where you want to have result set. And join is basically reflecting joins, include association, and select is basically a select statement. So we're going to actually try these things from the hands-on lab in a few minutes. From is name of the table, and read-only is read-only. Mark the return records read-only so that they cannot be saved or updated. And you can also do some marking. So these are examples. So here you are going to find the first record, the ID equals 1, and you are getting an array whose person ID is 1, 2, and 6. And this is 7 and 17. So you can actually have these values like this or in a form of array. So here you are getting an array for the object whose ID is 1, and then you can specify the conditions here as well. And here you are getting the first entry, and here you are getting the first entry whose condition is this, meaning you are getting the first entry whose name happened to be the value that you set to this variable. And here you're specifying order, so it's actually descending order on created on field, and offset is 5. Find all, so basically it returns every records on the table, and here you can specify the conditions as well. So pretty much same conditions we have seen. So the conditions could be in 3 different forms. It could be string, or it could be array, it could be hash form. Hash form is useful because it lets you specify the equality and range, and we'll see examples of that later on. All right, so these are the examples of string form. So here I'd like to get all user records whose condition specifies that the hobby field, the value should be swimming. Here you can specify it in terms of array. So here we are specifying, the both hobby the hobby is swimming, and name is Tom. And here we are using hash form. Dynamic attribute-based finders. So this is actually one of the most powerful feature of Rails. You are basically creating a new method during runtime, and that is actually taking advantage of a missing method feature of Ruby language, which we learned before. So if there is a field called username, and then you can say find by username, or find all by last name, or find by transaction ID, and these are application specific fields. And you can actually use this find method that reflects that particular application's table structure, and which is very powerful. So it's a lot easier to read, of course. So instead of